Doop 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 theme song. Hey everybody, welcome back to Make Better with your host Nick 101, and another quick one for you guys. So basically, um, as the holidays come up and we're about to get into Thanksgiving, I want to make sure that everybody knows that, let's say you did what we did and you went into an elimination diet, Leave It Loud as a guest star today. I don't know if you can hear in the background. And so if you are trying to stay away from foods that you're reactive to but not allergic to, try to make sure to every once in a while still um, eat those foods. So what you want to do is you want to have like a good solid week of eating well and healthy and stuff that you're not reactive to, but you don't want to cut out foods that you might go up a pound or two if you happen to eat entirely, because it could develop into a food allergy. So we have been kind of slowly shying away from cow's milk and getting more into goat's milk. It's less reactive. It's more in symbiosis with our makeup and stuff. Throwing big words, but basically what it is it's less reactive than regular cow's milk. So we weren't really bad with cow's milk, but definitely with goat cheese, it helps us lose unnecessary water retention and weight than with, say, regular cow's milk. So I've been making my family mac and cheese made from scratch, passed down from mom for forever. You make the roux, everything from scratch. And so typically what I would do is use, cow's cheddar cheese. Well, since the diet, we have moved on to doing goat cheddar cheese, which most people don't even realize that, goat cheese, goat milk, it isn't just the really, really, really pungent milk and then like the really, really, flavorful, almost too flavorful, goat cheese. They actually do come out with a bunch of different ones, including like goat mozzarella, goat cheddar, and it actually does taste like mozzarella and cheddar. So I've been making the mac and cheese with the goat cheddar, and for whatever reason, the store was out. We just didn't go to the right store, but we couldn't find any goat cheddar. So we were like, well, we've been good. We've been down. So down in weight, not down, mental health wise, but we've been down. So yeah, we should be good on just having a meal that uses cow cheese, and that was not the case at all. Um, she went up, and I didn't necessarily go up, but that was because I had to do an emergency sit in the bathroom, not once, not twice, but three times in the morning, where usually I only need to sit once in the morning. So definitely, we both had a negative reaction to it, and I realized that it's because we have been eating so little cow cheese, except for maybe the occasional sprinkling of Parmesan, that yeah, your body will start to have an even bigger reaction to it if it's something that you haven't been exposed to. So much like with, for instance, I always turn it back to dogs. With dogs, if they don't have a grain allergy, you shouldn't feed them grain free, because that not being exposed to grains over a course of time can lead them to having a grain allergy. Their body's not used to handling it. If it's been 5 years since they had a grain, and then all of a sudden they get a dog treat that has wheat in it, they might suddenly have a allergic reaction where that was never the case before. So I don't know why it didn't occur to me to apply that towards ourselves, but it is very similar. So even though we're both very reactive to tomatoes, tried to cut any tomato sauce and stuff out of our diet, which was hard because I have a very Italian stomach. But we found alternatives to favorite dishes. We now make a really mean white pizza that has no tomato sauce whatsoever. But what we should still be doing is having the occasional fresh tomato on a salad, or something to still expose ourselves. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to constantly expose yourself to stuff that you're reactive to, because then you just keep going up. It'll be just like how most diets are, where it's just like, oh, you went down for a little bit, but then you slowly start rising up. But just like plan out for like a really good week. So for instance, this week is Thanksgiving. So I would not try to expose yourself to a food you might be reactive to on Thanksgiving, because you already know that there's a day that you're going to be overeating, most likely drinking as well, and also having the meal um, at an off time. So usually Thanksgiving meals are, mid afternoon, like 2, 3 o'clock, usually at the latest, and that's not normally when most of us have a big meal. We usually have the big meal at dinner time, or we, But anyway, that's typically how Thanksgiving meals are. So your body's not already not used to having it at that time. It's going to be a bunch of foods that it doesn't usually have on a weekly basis. I mean, how often do we usually have the standard ingredients that are in a Thanksgiving meal? We very rarely have those, especially all combined. So this week would not be a good week to try and expose yourself to something you might be reactive to. But it is something I recommend doing every once in a while because heaven forbid you just develop a food allergy because your body hasn't seen it for years on end. I can't remember what comedian was talking about it, but I think it was Ron White where they had a vegan buddy, which there's nothing wrong with veganism, but he had a meal, and so he was just like, "Oof, God, I'm having a reaction. I think this broth has beef in it." And so Ron White was like, "Okay, it's getting pretty bad if your system's kicking back broth." And obviously, you need a little bit more knowledge about food to understand that. It was a funny joke, but it was true. The guy hadn't been exposed to even like the liquid from a meat source for so long that he was actually getting like sweaty and reactionary to just beef. Where admittedly beef is one of the more reactionary meats, but having said that, I'm sure that wasn't the case back when he first started being a vegan. He probably started being a vegan for health and or moral choices, and then just never letting himself get exposed to any beef whatsoever, even if it's just the runoff in a soup. That it was kicking his butt pretty bad. So I do recommend, unless of course that it's just you're so steadfastly moral that you just absolutely can't expose yourself to any meat whatsoever. I mean, that's you. You do you. But I definitely recommend that if you try to avoid certain foods, having a little bit every once in a while is actually a healthier thing than to avoid it entirely. And then, if heaven forbid, years down the road, you have a restaurant that you didn't read all the ingredients, or they didn't list all the ingredients, or you're just in a live or die situation where it's like, look, this is the only food that's available for days or weeks, then you have to eat it, and then you're going to be on the floor worse off than if you hadn't just every once in a while microdosed, I guess is a way that you could put it. Microdose stuff that you're reactive to is not a bad idea when you are trying to eliminate the stuff that you're reactive to, just so that your body doesn't start to reject it completely. So reactive versus rejection, big difference, and I want to make sure that you're doing it the smart way. So yeah, apparently every once in a while I need to put a little bit of cow cheese in certain meals and stuff. So what's funny is that it isn't like I've cut cow product out at all. We still do plenty of stuff with cow butter. Still drink plenty of cow's milk. It was literally just the processed cow's cheese that does it. So it doesn't even matter if the ingredients are coming from something that you're exposing yourself to. You can be reactive to cheese and not reactive to milk, and I believe in some cases even vice versa. So that's why when we did the elimination diet, it was so informative because just because something is universally considered healthier, like for instance chickpea pasta over wheat pasta. I've said this before in previous episodes, but we were eating chickpea pasta and had pretty much just gotten rid of all of the wheat pasta. And then when we did the elimination diet, it turns out I'm slightly reactive to chickpeas. So this whole time we were doing those quote unquote healthy pasta dishes, it was in fact making me reactive. So it is really a great way to figure out your body because everybody's different. And chickpeas are like a hummus and what would be considered healthy pasta. So now I just try to avoid that, but that also doesn't mean that I shouldn't every once in a while have a chip with some hummus on it because I don't want to become allergic to chickpeas. So I think that's enough examples. You kind of get what I'm trying to say, but that's the takeaway from this weekend. It was a decent weekend right up until the end of it, and then this morning, Monday morning, was a shit show, literally. Pardon my French, but that's literally what it was. So I want to make sure that people avoid that. In the future, if anybody has heard me rant about the plan and or elimination diets, and they go all out, I just want to make sure that you're not going so far that you're causing damage, because I would feel supremely guilty about that if years later it's just like, oh hey man, thanks for telling me to never eat tomatoes. Now I can't even go buy a farmer's market without getting hives thanks to you, or something like that. But yeah, other than that, just checking in, doing my usual, trying to keep accountable about how things are going. And just basically, the holidays are coming up, so hopefully you have somebody to share it with. If you don't, Don't worry about it too much. It's usually overrated, to be honest. People always. I mean, that's usually the source of good. A good percentage of most comedians' jokes is about the nightmare of dealing with family and stuff during the holidays. I've already seen some nightmarish Reddit threads on the same subject where, poor person's been, like slaving away for the past, like, four Thanksgivings, and never once does she get a thank you or even any leftovers afterwards. They just, rate all of the leftovers, never appreciative, leave the house a mess. So, hopefully you have somebody that you can spend it with, but if not, guaranteed you might be better company than what the potential company you could have spent it with. But everybody should have somebody, even if it's just a pet. So, yeah, maybe treat your pet to something special. Not necessarily human food, but maybe a nice little extra something something. I believe we have a. Um, I think what we ended up getting was a clearance Halloween dog bone for Lilu that she can munch on Thanksgiving. Oh, and of course a canned food of Thanksgiving dinner because we don't usually ever give her canned food. So we're gonna take the canned Thanksgiving dinner, mix it up with some of her dry food, and that should be a nice little treat. And yeah, we've been keeping her at a really healthy weight this whole time. So if she, happens to put on a half a pound or so for winter weight, that's not necessarily a bad thing. She's flat coat, so she's still going to need a jacket, which we of course always supply her with. But having an extra half a pound on her during the winter months is not too bad of a thing, especially because she's 50 pounds. So if she was Chihuahua size, yeah, a pound up or down is pretty significant. See, I'm still having a little bit of it's not necessarily acid reflux, but just like little micro burps and all that stuff. So that's still from this morning. So just to show you that I'm not making this stuff up, telling tales out of school. I still feeling it even after all this time. So yeah, don't let your body get so deprived of being able to deal with new stuff that comes in. So yeah, that's about it for now. Watch your gut health as well as your mental health, I guess, is the takeaway for today's today's episode. Hope you have a good holiday. I will check in on you next week, and I appreciate you.